I want to quickly talk to you about how to become a successful freight broker this year. And here are my general comments. First of all, to define what a freight broker really is, because a lot of folks talk about freight broker, but they have no idea what a freight broker really does. Okay, so a freight broker really serves as a middleman, so basically an intermediary between shippers and motor carriers. So basically, you have shippers on one end, and then you have delivery people on the other end. So shippers have freight that needs to be moved, right? And the motor carriers or trucking companies or delivery companies or just the cargo van drivers or what have you, they basically have the physical vehicles to haul the freight. So the shipper actually hires the freight broker to connect them with a carrier to move the shipment. So the broker never really takes actual possession of the freight. They solely facilitate, in other words, broker the transaction. So a licensed freight broker maintains a legal authority from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, the FMCSA, and can hire employees or even contact the independent agent to operate under their authority. So that's basically the idea behind a freight brokerage company. Now, the thing is that freight brokers make money by charging the shipper a higher rate than the truck or cargo van cost. So this markup is actually the margin that they use to operate their business and ultimately make money. So that margin is generally around 15, 20%, and sometimes 25%, though it can really fluctuate based on market trends. For example, if a broker charges $1,000 to their customer and pays the trucking company 850, they would profit, like, let's say 150 from the transaction. Okay. Now, how do you become a freight broker really this year? Well, there are only a few things that you need to have to start a freight broker business. You got to have an operating authority. You got to have a surety bond. You got to have a process agents, and you got to also go through a freight broker training. So, although not an official requirement, it's kind of helpful to review the basics before you jump in on, let's say, this new business. So this is important. And when I speak about process agent, you will need to file a list of process agents, Form BOC3, with the FMCSA. And process agents can be served court documents on a broker's behalf in the event of a court action or lawsuit. So the government just want to have somebody to reach out to if there's a problem. So let's talk about money talk here. So how much does it really cost to become a truck broker or a cargo van broker, or let's just say a freight broker in general? So while the startup costs for a freight broker are lower than those in many other industries, they can still be significant. One of the most important steps in when it comes to starting a freight brokerage is actually determining your break-even point, since you will not earn any money until those costs have been covered, right? So when assessing the cost of becoming a freight broker, you need to really consider the startup cost as well as, let's say, the many additional costs that you can expect to face, because the industry is changing all the time, and you got to really be clear about what really you are going to pay. So the minimum cost you need to pay for legally operating a freight brokerage company this year, you have dot authority. You got to have authority. So for dot authority, basically, Department of Transportation wants you to have a $300 application fee. Don't actually fall for those scams telling you, they're gonna file the dot thing for you. You can do it yourself. You can actually file your dot paperwork yourself. So nothing really complicated, pretty straightforward. So besides the dot authority that will cost you $300, you have the surety bond. So surety bond actually depends on the size of your freight brokerage, but it ranges from $1,800 to $10,000 annually, depending on your credit. So there is an element of your FICO score that really has an impact on your surety bond. You also have insurance. So insurance will actually set you back $1,500 to $3,000 annually, depending upon the geography and the field you're in terms of freight brokerage. So in terms of a process agent, basically expect to pay $50 to $150. So on average, that comes to a total amount of $5,000 to $10,000 in bare minimum cost. However, this number actually, just bear in mind, that number does not include the supplemental cost that can be the difference between success and failure as a freight broker. So, for instance, additional costs to consider really include transportation management systems, so TMS software, load boards. Yeah, you might have to actually go on load boards to actually find out what's happening in terms of load availability, cash flow. So the gap between when you have to pay your carriers and when you get paid by shippers determine how much liquid cash you need to have on hand at all times. And also you got to think about insurance. So insurance is important, especially things like workers' comp or errors and omission. So E&O. Let me dig a little deeper here. So, what are the requirements when you think about becoming a successful freight broker this year? So, is being a freight broker really hard? It really depends. It depends on the geography you're in. It depends on where you're at, your state, your city, or the particular kind of truck or cargo van or sprinter van or the vehicle you're dealing with. Okay, the kind of brokerage you are actually dealing with. If you're dealing with reefers, for instance, it's not the same thing as if you are dealing with hazmat vehicles. Okay, hazardous material. So for every 3 new brokerage authorities that are issued, only one remain active after 2 years, which answers this question with a resounding yes. It is hard to be a broker, to be a freight broker. Of course, that doesn't mean a successful freight broker is impossible. It simply means it takes a lot of hard work. If the concept of making over 60 cold calls every day to build a book of business and then navigating a wide range of back office tasks sounds daunting to you, you may be better off actually starting let's say a career as an agent or employee of a brokerage, and then work towards your goal of owning your own freight brokerage in a year or 2 or maybe 5 years. It really depends on how committed you are, how resilient you are too. Okay, so although many find running their own business to be an appealing concept, there are positive and negatives that come with starting your own brokerage. And so, I mean, one obvious benefit is that you got to keep 100% of the net profit produced by your business. That's for sure, right? But you got to have profit in the first place. Because on the other hand, you need to cover a range of startup and continuing expenses that can seriously eat into your profit margins. You also have to navigate a lot more risk when you own the brokerage. That's the thing, because you are your own boss. You are actually shouldering all the responsibilities, all the cost, everything. Unless you have a receivables insurance company backing your invoices, which is quite expensive, you are taking full risk of any invoice not being paid or being short paid. Somebody not paying you. This could be very painful. However, when you work as an agent for a broker, you avoid all of this cost and risks. You instead have to focus on your attention on being a successful freight broker. That means you don't need to do any of the back office tasks like AR, AP, so accounts receivable, accounts payable, credit, carrier vetting, and freight claims that form an essential part of running your own freight brokerage. While it's true that you don't actually get to keep 100% of the profit as you would with your own business, you are still responsible to a certain extent. So when you think about becoming a successful freight broker, I want to talk to you a little bit about getting experience and training, because this is sort of quite essential when it comes to solidifying your reputation as a freight broker. So success as a freight broker really depends largely on the training and experience you have before you get your trucking authority. So there are a number of ways you can go about getting that training, but the best way to do it is to hire a coach or to work with someone who is already succeeding in the field, right? Don't try to reinvent the wheel. That's really the main piece of advice here. So basically, other ways to learn include listening to podcasts and following blogs, like you can have a Freight 360 or investing in freight broker training programs that teach you the skills you need to succeed as a freight broker. So the thing is, it really depends on the kind of learning style you have and also where you are at, and also your background before you get into this freight brokerage business. It's also important that you open yourself up to the ongoing learning process. So before you get to your own authority, you got to realize that you will never be perfect at this job, and that people who succeed are those who keep up with the industry standards, learn the new tools, and adapt to changes of the environment. So what I'm trying to say here is that you have a very competitive environment, a very dynamic environment, and it's one of those things where you have to constantly adapt yourself. It's not about just getting to a freight brokerage industry and say, you know what, I'm going to learn this for the first year and then I'm set. No, you will never be set. Even after you have started your business, you got to continue to network with other successful brokers, and if possible, find a coach or mentor who can continue to guide you. So guidance is really important, really, okay? And so success as a freight broker depends largely on the training and experience you have before you get your trucking authority. There are a number of ways you can go about getting that training, but basically at the end of the day, the best way to do it is to take a freight broker training course, hire a coach, or work with someone who's already has already shown that they're really good in the industry. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. I want to insist on that. Do not try to reinvent the wheel. You would have wasted your time, big time. Okay, you have to really just follow the train and really hop on a program that's already working. So if you want to become a successful freight broker, you got to really also find customers and carriers, right? Because I said a little earlier that a broker is really a middleman between carriers and shippers. So there is actually no denying that finding customers and carriers takes a lot of work. I said to you a little earlier that also you have to call 60 or 70 different people every single day. So when it comes to finding customers, you are going to need to do a significant amount of cold calling. You can actually find a variety of databases and directories online, plus paid leads lists that give you contact information for shippers that you can call. You can also set up Google Alerts with industry keywords to find companies popping up or projects happening. It's all about really knowing what's happening, okay? And once you start making connections, you can use referrals to help grow your business. It's one of those things where you want to really first get your first clients, your first maybe 5 clients, 10 clients, and really hop on, really parlay that initial client base into something larger. So given how many calls you need to make, it's kind of helpful to batch your contacts before you begin calling every day. It doesn't matter how you batch them, by region, commodity, etc., by vehicle, by niche like reefer, hazmat, or what have you. Just as long as you have a plan before you begin calling, that intention and thought will lead to better results. In other words, you got to be prepared. Okay, don't try to do things randomly. So the process of finding carriers is different from that of finding shippers, and it really presents its own challenges because you also need to vet trucking companies, cargo van companies, sprinter van companies before you can use them. The best way to find carriers is by using a load board to post your loads or search for vehicles, trucks, cargo vans, sprinter vans, and so you can also use a directory like that directory. And this is really good. You can really research new carriers to work with. So with the load board, you can also save searches. So even if there is not a matching truck or a cargo van or a sprinter van available when you conduct your search, you'll be notified as soon as one is posted. So that's really good. Now, your customers expect that their products will get to their destination without an issue. So vetting carriers is also an important piece of the puzzle. So before you use a carrier, you want to check their carrier authority. You want to look at reviews. You want to check that they meet insurance requirements. And you want to really make sure that they actually get subjective feedback. Let me give you a few pro tips here. It's important to avoid common pitfalls when you start really thinking about becoming a successful freight broker. So one of the major reasons why there is such a high turnover rate among freight brokers is because they encounter several common challenges and pitfalls. And the biggest pitfalls to avoid are lacking the knowledge to succeed, not understanding cost and cash flow. This is really important. In other words, the accounting part of things, not embracing technology, trying to get it to actually be a jack of all trades, to do everything yourself, and forgetting the importance of relationships. Okay, let me break it down for you. So when I speak about lacking the knowledge to succeed, you need to learn about the freight industry before you can build a company around it. Like, how can you be a successful freight broker if you have no idea about the trucking industry, about the cargo van industry, about the sprinter van industry, about you got to really have a little bit of intel about the industry you're trying to really make money in. Okay, you got to really think about this as a vision for your life. That means what? It means that you are researching how to be a freight broker, and how to run a business before you start off on your own. Very simple. Also, not understanding cost and cash flows. It's all about cash inflows and cash outflows. If you want to stay afloat, monetarily speaking, you got to really have a clear idea about the delta, about money coming in your business, in your freight brokerage business, and money going out, right? If you can't have a clear idea about that delta, you're not going to succeed. So you got to really make sure you have enough cash coming in. Not embracing technology. So from TMS, so transportation management software, to load bars, to rating tools, and more. There are a huge number of technological solutions available to you with your freight brokerage. So you want to really keep up with new development in technology to ensure you are always using tech solutions to actually beef up your business. And don't try to do everything yourself. Okay, don't try to be a jack of all trades. If you can outsource a few tasks, do it. I mean, don't try to really do things yourself, everything. And also, don't forget the importance of relationships. Cultivate relationships big time. So to close to this conversation, if you are thinking about being a successful freight broker this year, it's important to really understand that all the tips and hacks that I've given you are not going to be successful unless you dedicate yourself, unless you have a plan, unless you have a vision. See, the whole thing is that it's not just about thinking about becoming a freight broker. It's about why you want to become a freight broker. Is it because of money? Is it because of you have a vision to quote unquote revolutionize the industry? Is it because you see an opportunity in your area? Is it because you're trying to really help shippers? See, the whole thing is when you define clearly why you want to be a freight broker, you are going to see that motto, that mantra is going to guide you. Okay, so be very clear about the why first. Why are you trying to become a successful freight broker? So once you are clear about why you want to become a freight broker, you are going to find the resources, the money, the willpower to really fuel your willingness to actually succeed as a freight broker. The industry is pretty interesting. The industry is pretty dynamic. It's pretty competitive. You're not the only one. You have a lot of players coming in and leaving. But those who stay are those who have a plan, or those who have a vision, those who are determined to actually reach their goals. That's why everything you are going to be successful if you sit down first and really ask yourself, why do I want to become a freight broker? And then number two, do I have the resources to actually power up my desire? If you can answer those two questions clearly, you are going to succeed as a freight broker. Last thing, I think I've said this before, but I want to insist on it once again, the relationship, the power of relationships. See, the thing is that when you are thinking about becoming a successful freight broker, having the right relationships is going to help you, because those relationships can be really scalable. In other words, if you have the right relationship, you can ship for that client for many years to come, and you can use that carrier, that truck, that cargo van, that sprinter van for many years to come, right? You don't have to really reinvent the wheel by searching for new clients all the time. So that's going to help you reduce your CAC, your client cost acquisition cost down the road, actually. So here's a coda. To this conversation, I spoke to you about how to become a successful freight broker. I gave you our general comments, the money talk, the requirements, the pro tips, and now the coda. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.